On today's episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about Twisted into Form by Forbidden. Isn't that right, OJ?
It's Forbidden's second album.
Okay, this is the part where the music plays. We'll get this someday.
No, we'll get there.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bronze Medalist podcast. I'm Kayle.
I'm OJ.
And today we got some music-related stuff to talk about. Forbidden.
See, once again, if you didn't listen last week, we're sort of swapping albums every week.
Every week. So OJ this week brought Twisted into Form by Forbidden. It's a thrash metal album from 1990, and
Indeed.
Happy to talk about it. This is one of my first like purposeful forays into thrash, other than every once in a while just being like, I should try and appreciate Slayer a little bit more.
Well, yeah.
Out of most thrash bands, I think Slayer kind of fits my personality the most. At least that's what that one Facebook quiz told me.
Which Slayer album would you say fits your personality the most?
I'm not sure if I know enough to really say. I mean, the one I've listened to the most is definitely Rain and Blood.
Sure, because it's easiest to listen, because it's only 23 minutes long.
Yeah, it's only 23 minutes long,
right.
And that's, they had Raining Blood was on Guitar Hero 3, so that's what I'm most familiar with.
Sure.
And I guess that one, I don't know if I want to, I don't know if I want to necessarily personally identify with the Slayer album. Oh, yeah, no, Angel of Death, I really personally...
Sure, that's how I feel. I'm a real Joseph Mengele kind of guy, yeah.
I don't really want to personally identify with that necessarily.
But on some level, we kind of have to. I mean, if you're into heavy music at all, at some point you have to be, okay, fine.
Okay. Well, I mean, I always hate that when people think, or when people are thinking about any kind of metal album, and if you're singing about something gory and like murdering somebody, it's like, these people really want to murder somebody. It's like, no. It's like it's a horror movie, but in a song.
Sure.
And the people that make horror movies don't want to murder people.
No.
John Carpenter doesn't want
people to get killed by a mimicking alien.
As we discussed earlier at work, Tom Araya is Catholic.
Well, yeah,
and he's
a devout Catholic.
Yeah, he's not. Well, I don't know about devout, but he's not a what they would call a recovering Catholic.
No, he was an altar boy. He's
a good Catholic, good Latino Catholic boy. I don't know why I felt like adding Latino there. It's accurate. It was unnecessary. Yeah.
Anyway, moving forward.
That was awkward.
Yeah.
What's happened this week? What's going on?
What's going on? What's happened this week?
Yeah, I don't know.
Not a whole lot. I listened to this album a couple of times.
Oh, there you go.
Again.
So did I. Well, okay. I listened to it okay, so you're
the truth is coming out here.
You're giving me the look here. I did listen to it at least once all the way through.
Okay.
But it was in pieces.
Right.
Just because I was doing other things and whatnot. So.
Hey man, we're busy guys.
Yeah, I'm such a busy guy. I totally wasn't watching, binge watching Marvelous Miss Maisel.
No, certainly not.
Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
It is Mrs. Maisel.
Yeah, it's a good show, by the way.
Yeah, I've heard.
It won 8 Emmys last night.
Yeah.
That was after I started watching it. So I started watching it before it won the Emmys. So
you
I feel like
you're one of the cool people.
I'm one of the cool people.
Yeah.
I'm what they call a Maisel head.
Sure.
Anyway, so I guess I did do some things in the last week. I went to a wedding.
Sure.
One of my friends from high school got married, which was kind of surreal because I'm 22.
Sure. Well, this is when this is going to start happening.
Yeah, and he's like the fourth, maybe the fifth person in my class to have gotten married. The first guy from my class to have gotten married.
All the girls in your class have gotten married? Like
implying there were only 4 girls.
Yeah.
There were 8. There were 8 girls. Thank you.
Welcome to small town, North Dakota. Yeah.
Yep. I like how you said it Nort too.
Yeah.
That's
that's where we're from.
Yeah, we're from
up here in North Dakota.
North Dakota.
Yeah, sure, you betcha.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Ope.
That's
a thing people have been obsessing about. That and what's the other Dakota or like Midwestern thing?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm out of the loop on these things.
Yeah, there was one other thing that people were obsessing about. One random anecdote that I wrote down on my boogie board here.
Okay.
My digital note sheet that I keep.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Arby's today, and I was in the commode earlier this evening.
Taking one of the aforementioned big meaty shits that you were talking about.
When did I mention big meaty shits before?
As soon as I walked in the door, I was
Well, yeah, we were recording then, though.
I knocked on the door and he didn't hear me until I'd been standing there for like 5 minutes.
I was listening to the new Architect single,
so
which I'll get to later.
We'll get to that later.
So I was thinking, why the fuck at Arby's did they call it Horsey sauce?
Because it's made with real horsey.
What is it though? Like
horseradish flavus.
It's
flavus.
Flavus.
It's got the flavus.
Hello, I am horseradish flavus, legate of the 3rd Legion. I have come to bring Dacia back into the Imperial fold.
No, but it's horseradish. I don't know if there's actually horseradish. There probably is.
It's horseradish flavored,
right?
In the same way that like most candy is like grape flavored. There's no actual grape extract or anything in there.
Yeah, grape flavored candy is what we call in our house purple flavored. It's not grape flavored.
That's true.
It's purple flavored.
So yeah, horsey sauce. It's a complete mystery, and I just wanted to waste a little bit of time on that.
I gotta say, I like horsey sauce in my curly fries.
I've never done the horsey sauce. The lady did give me 4 packets of marinara.
Really?
For my single order of mozzarella sticks.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and I had gotten that previously. I'd gotten marinara. I remembered immediately upon dipping one of my mozzarella sticks into it that I don't like Arby's marinara.
Really?
Something about it just is gross, and I don't care for it.
Yeah, but look at you. You know, if I saw you coming in, I'd go, that guy wants 4 marinara.
I suppose. Yeah. I'm not going to argue with that. You're right. Okay, so I mentioned a new Architect single. There's a couple new singles for bands that I like that have come out in the time since last week. And one of them, the first one that I'm going to talk about is one called In Absence from Silent Planet.
Mm-hmm.
They're one of my favorite bands. I'm just like... I said Converge was it, or no? Jane Doe's one of my top 5 favorite albums.
Right.
Silent Planet's probably my second or third favorite band.
Really?
I don't know, something like that.
Cool.
And so
we'll have to do them in a later episode.
When their new album comes out, we definitely will.
Sounds like a plan.
And so their new single is called In Absence. It was a little bit different than the other singles they've released. The other 3 singles so far. This is number 4.
Mm-hmm.
The other 3 singles are fairly heavy, more like their. The rest of their work. This one slowed down quite a bit. Had a lot more melody. Their bassist does clean singing for them, and God, I love this song. It's about losing someone you love to Alzheimer's or dementia.
Oh wow!
Which hits really hard for me because several years ago I lost my grandfather, so that. I don't want to get too sad.
Get all sappy on us. Well, I'm not going to call it sappy.
Yeah, but the other single's not much better in terms of emotionality. It's part of why I like it, because I can. That's the wonderful thing about music. You can form some sort of personal attachment to it.
Mm-hmm.
Art. That's what art.
Really,
is.
This is art.
Yeah, that's what art is about. So yeah, I really like that. I'm really really pumped for their new album. Sort of thing. As
a side note, we're talking about Architect?
Architects is the other one. The first, In Absence was Silent Planet.
Oh, Silent Planet. Okay.
Yep.
I thought we moved on to.
So the Architect single, which we were going to talk about now, is called Hereafter, and it's the first, technically the second single that's off of their upcoming album called Holy Hell. And this is their first album that they've made after the death of their lead guitarist and actually lyricist, Tom Searle. And that's it. There's a great story that I'll probably save for the episode I know we're going to do about it. Both these albums, by the way, are coming out in the first week and a half of November. So they're stacked.
So that's going to be a week for you.
Yeah, that's going to be a week. That's going to be a good week.
Yeah.
Lots of jams like that. So Hereafter is really good. It's predictably, but not badly about that's not a sentence.
Predictably, but not badly.
Yeah, that doesn't work grammatically. It is predictably about grief and about losing Tom, who was their drummer's twin brother.
Wow.
So that was, obviously even more, losing a bandmate and a friend and that sort of thing, but also losing a brother and a twin at that.
That's going to be crazy.
Yeah, and I think part of it was, and the weird thing about cancer sometimes and diseases like that and progressive diseases is that sometimes it's not quite as bad because you see it coming from a long ways away.
You get time to prep.
Yeah, it tends to happen like that, and I think Alzheimer's is at least in my experience, kind of the same way. It doesn't lessen the blow, but it does make you more prepared for it. Oh God, I said I wasn't gonna get sad on this one. Son of a bitch. Failure.
You're fine. You're fine, man.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm fine. I know I'm fine.
Are you sure you don't want any whiskey?
Yeah, I'm sure. Anyhow, so, the other thing I was going to talk about with Architects is you are apparently allergic to Architects.
Right, I was going to bring that up, that every time he brings up this band, for some reason I go into a coughing fit and throw up.
Earlier today, I was trying to tell him about this band and this single, and you would start just hacking. So, yeah, I don't know. Well,
I'm fine now.
Yeah, if we do an entire episode about this band, you're probably going to die.
Challenge accepted. I think
we can become famous for the first death on a podcast.
That's not on my list. I have a list of their acceptable ways to die. That's
not on there.
No,
are they ranked?
Yeah, to some degree.
Okay. Is Eaten by a Bear number one?
Mauled by a Bear is number one. Yeah.
Okay, I figured it would be.
Yeah.
That's a. It's not a good way to go, but it's a manly way to go.
Yeah, it's a way. Yeah.
It's a manly way.
I mean, people don't say I'm very manly. I figured if I'm
look at your beard.
Well, yeah.
People that say that about you haven't seen your beard now.
That's true. They don't know that I'm all Grizzly Adams.
Yes. Rest in peace, Dan Haggerty.
Yes, indeed.
Anyway, so the album that we listened to today was Twisted into Form by Forbidden. Came out in 1990. OJ, if you want to lead us off into a wonderful world.
Okay, it is their sophomore effort. Of course, the band, they used to be called Forbidden Evil when they formed back in 1985, I think. Is that what it says, according to their Wikipedia page?
I've got it open here. Formed in, yes.
1985.
Wow. Yeah,
Rob
accurate.
Flynn was...
I had that written down. I was going to mention that later. You're kicking my ass
indeed.
So far.
Well, I'm the one who,
You're the one who brought the album.
The one who brought the album. And of course, Rob Flynn left the band before their first album.
Yeah.
And then he formed Violence, and obviously...
you mean Violence?
Violence. Bio-lens. No, or not Violence, as you had thought.
Violence. Yeah. Violins.
Violins. And sex and violins. No, and then ultimately he's in...
Machine Head.
He's in, U2. And Machine Head. This album was their second effort, and it's my favorite because it was the first one that I was introduced to, and as we discussed last week, I mean that's often the case. Was when you're your first, hey, I like this one because I heard it the first.
Yeah, it was the first one.
What I became accustomed to. I love Russ's vocals on this. He does a lot of ramp up, high, squealing.
I don't know if I'd call it squealing, but it's because to me squealing is like deathcore pig squeals, and that's or like a black metal shriek.
Yeah.
To me, this is like
it's more operatic.
Yeah, more operatic. Slightly. I've said this to you several times so far that it reminds me of a slightly grittier James LaBrie from Dream Theater.
Sure. Yeah.
It definitely has all the melody and all the theatricality that James LaBrie brings. What was the verdict on the puffy face?
Yeah, well,
does he bring James LaBrie's puffy face?
A little bit.
A little bit.
Well,
okay.
The band is retired. They retired in 2012.
Yep. I did see that when I was looking through.
Yeah, so he can go home and be puffy faced
by himself,
or with his wife and probably grown children. But
yeah, grandchildren maybe. I don't know. How old are these guys?
They got to be in the 50s.
At least, I would imagine.
Yeah. Every time you mention James and LaBrie, by the way, I always think of what someone's going to be tempted someday way down the road at his funeral to say, well, we now have a room temperature LaBrie. Cheese jokes are the best, aren't they? Oh, jeez. Oh, cheese.
We like to have fun here, kids. We have fun here. You mentioned earlier that Rob Flynn from Machine Head was one of the original members of the band.
Founding members of the band.
One of the founding members of the band.
Yeah.
There were some other later famous people that would play in Forbidden, or people that would eventually play in Forbidden that were already famous when they played. A through line that has come into so many of our conversations about heavy metal is Gene Hoglan.
Gene Hoglan, yeah, he did live shows.
Okay.
With them, when their drummer just quit, and so he filled in live. Is what happened.
Speaking of drummers,
Paul Bostaph.
Paul Bostaph, who would later go on to play in Slayer,
right,
was in there.
And Testament.
Yes. And I think Suicidal Tendencies? No, wait, that's Dave Lombardo.
Yeah.
That's Dave Lombardo that plays
from Slayer.
Yeah. And who would come back for Christ Illusion?
Well, it's weird.
I literally just read about this because I went on a Wikipedia tangent.
I just realized that bands and all their little emotional blow-ups, it's like small-town dating.
Yeah, it really is. And there's it's like you could draw a graph of... There should be a game where it's like 6 degrees of thrash metal. 6 degrees of Gene Hoglan.
6 degrees of Gene Hoglan. That would be awesome.
And now I'm thinking of 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, which is an album by Dream Theater.
Does James LaBrie sing?
Yes, he does. Okay. He does. He's sang every album since 1995.
Since 1995, right.
Anyway, were there other... I can't think of any other band members in there. I did read...
Yeah.
That was interesting. The reason why they changed their name from Forbidden Evil to just Forbidden is because they didn't want to be confused for being a black metal band.
Sure, yeah, because they're a thrash metal band.
Yeah, and this was the early 90s when you didn't really want to be a black metal band.
Not as popular with the...
Not so popular with general audiences.
Right.
Not that it's popular today with general audiences, but...
Then they went ahead and named their first album Forbidden Evil.
Yeah.
So, all right.
I suppose. But, this was early 90s. This was when people were burning down churches.
Yeah, mainly in Scandinavia.
Mainly in Scandinavia.
Yeah.
I don't know if there were any American church burnings connected to black metal bands, but that's a whole subject in itself. I know for a fact that there are podcasts about like 90s black metal.
Or there's at least 2 documentary movies.
Yeah. So it's a fascinating subject.
It is.
It really is. Because they're like, out of any genre of metal, when I look at black metal, I think these guys believe it.
Oh yeah, these guys they're all in.
Or at least
these guys are 100% in.
They're very, very committed. And that doesn't, that's a generalization. It doesn't obviously apply to every black metal band, but like especially back then and certain bands today, it's like no, they believe it. They're into it. Satanism, ethnic paganism, whatever it is, they're in it.
I'm still surprised one of those documentaries wasn't called "Sorry About the Mess."
Sorry about the mess. That was that was the note that. This is gonna sound bad. That was the note that guy from Mayhem.
Yeah, that's why.
Wait, was that actually what he said?
Yeah,
I did. Okay, I hadn't actually heard that.
That was a reference to that note. Yay! And you picked up on it.
I picked up on it. I just came up with it. I am a genius. Yeah. So I totally went off on a tangent about. You were trying to talk about how much you like his vocals.
You know what? We're off ramping. That's what we're doing.
So yeah, I do like his vocals. I think they're very convincing. I don't know.
Yeah,
I believe that those are vocals made by a human being.
They are convincing that is a man.
I believe making a human man.
Yes,
made those noises in the past.
And the guitar work is very consistent on this album.
It is. I do like also that maybe it's something for me having listened to so much like newer death metal and like tech death and metalcore and deathcore and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I do appreciate a guitar solo that's not just repeated sweep arpeggios. Yeah. That tends to be. I saw a meme the other day where it was the picture from the anime where there's the butterfly, and the guy's like, "Is this a bird?" And it was the butterfly was replaced with repeated sweep arpeggios, and then he was saying the guy was labeled as technical death metal band, and then the text was, "Is this a guitar solo?" So yeah, it was refreshing. Although, like, I listened to a ton of Dream Theater like off and on, which sounds weird, but the way it works is like I'll go a couple weeks without listening to any Dream Theater, and then I will listen to nothing but Dream Theater for an entire day, and then I will recover from Dream Theater and listen to some other things.
I can attest to that at work. Yeah.
I do that a lot. Let's see, what other things?
What are the other things?
What are the other things that happen in albums? Drums.
Drums. The drums, of course, this is, like we said, this is the final...
album with Paul Bostaph.
Final with Paul Bostaph on it, yeah.
The interesting thing about the drums, I think it was... I'm trying to remember on what track it was. Track listing. Yes, Wikipedia, show me the track listing. Why are you only listing the last... Oh, that was... Okay.
There you go.
What was it? Oh,
that's the Century Media re-release had those extra tracks on it.
So I think it was in Tossed Away. The bass kicks sounded really weird. It had like that happens every once in a while on older albums where the bass kicks kind of sound flabby.
Yes,
is the word.
There was what was the album? There was actually an Anthrax album that I remember listening to. Oh, it was people are gonna give me shit about this, but it was what album am I thinking of?
I don't know. Do you want me to bring up a list?
The bass, Charlie's bass drum on there sounded like someone going. That's what I thought. Just like a click. Whole thing. Yeah, it sounded like a click.
They left the click track in when they were recording.
That's what it is.
I don't know if they used click tracks back then, but yeah. So for the most part, though, like that was the only song I really noticed it on. Although my earlier listens of the album had been through speakers instead of through my headphones, so that might have been why I didn't notice it. But it wasn't enough to like throw me off and be like, "Oh God, this is nasty." I don't want to.
It was rather dramatic.
That's what happens to me when I find something on an album I don't like. I turn into a chaos spawn. Develop 3 mouths and
let's just do the rest of this like that.
Oh, I'd hurt myself. That's kind of like did you know that Mike Patton did the all of the voice work for the zombies in the Left 4 Dead video games?
I didn't know that.
He did, and now that I know what Mike Patton sounds like, every time I play Left 4 Dead, I'm like, yeah, no, that sounds like Mike Patton. I'm kind of taken out of the experience because all I can hear is Mike Patton gurgling and screaming and making weird throat noises.
And he's got to be, I mean, if you've heard interviews with him or seen interviews with him, he's got to be fun to direct.
Oh man.
In that not at all kind of way.
They had to bring, Gabe Newell himself had to come into the studio and be like, Mike, you know we're big fans of you. We love your work. That's why we brought you here. You can't just eat a sandwich in the studio. We can't use that as zombie noises, Mike. That's more like it, Mike. I think actually what happened was they brought Mike Patton in to voice one of the characters in Left 4 Dead. They brought him in to voice like Bill.
And he was eating a sandwich and was all muffled.
Well, he just decided that day that he was only going to talk in gurgles because he's Mike Patton and he does what he wants. And they were like, "Oh, we actually needed zombie voices. We'll get somebody else to voice Bill. We're going to use this as our zombie audio." I think that's canon. That's
and as an actor, he's got to be method. He's probably
he ate somebody
he actually ate
to get into character. Mike Patton ate a human being to get into character for
their brain
for the zombies in Left 4 Dead. What a guy. Thank you for this giant golden dildo. Mike Patton. That just describes the man in a sentence. What other things about the album?
Other things about the album. See, in 1990, I was 16. What else was going on at the time?
Yeah, what is your personal connection?
I got this on cassette. Okay. Of course, I think I still have it on cassette somewhere.
Buried.
Buried in my cassette collection. It's weird. I have a lot of cassettes from like the Philippines.
Mm-hmm. We were talking about this earlier today about how tough it was for you to get music while you were in the Philippines.
It was. It was really weird. I mean, you had to. It was basically a black market. We traded music the way kids today trade. The marijuanas.
Drugs.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose it was mostly you and the other American kids.
Mostly,
in the area. And then there were I assume the two that you called the Frodo brothers.
The Frodo brothers. They were
Filipino.
They were Filipino ethnically, but
okay,
their mother and father were Filipino. No, they weren't Filipino citizens. They became Americans because he was a government service.
Oh, okay.
He was like a GS-12. Their dad was. He was.
Okay.
He was just a brilliant engineer. And now they're both like college professors.
Wow.
Because we're old.
From OJ's basement, listening to Twisted into Form, to college professors.
Yeah. Hey man. Hey, you got that new Exodus album?
Yeah. I really need a fix, man. I really need a fix. I'm tweaking out here, bro.
What was your first CD? Do you remember?
Oh God. Honestly, it was probably like the the first non-embarrassing answer is probably I think Meteora by Linkin Park.
Oh, okay.
My older sister had like a weird like pop punk phase.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was a weird pop punk phase, but she gave like there was several like pop punk It's such a tough word to say, pop punk. She gave me several albums. There was a something corporate album she gave me. There was the Used album that she gave me, and then she gave me this Linkin Park album. That's the one that I kind of attached to.
Sure.
Before that, the CDs that I got were like there was like Nickelback, and there was like some Creed, and there was country albums actually.
Really, had some country on there.
Yeah, and this was all when I was like 10. That sort of thing. When I hadn't really decided, like, I'm going to care. Oh, that sounds bad. I'm going to care about music.
I'm going to start caring about, yeah.
But it was before, like, I really identified with music in any personal way. It was just like, this sounds nice. I'm 10. I'm 10. This sounds nice.
This is the second time 10-year-old Kayle Borner has shown
come up today.
Hi, everybody. I'm little Kayle.
This is what I sounded like when I was 10 years old.
Oh, God, I hope not. My parents would have probably thrown me out.
Yeah, that would have.
They would have thrown me out into the mean cold of the North Dakota.
Where you going,
wilderness.
honey? I'm going to go drown our son.
I'm going to throw our son into the rainwater tank. I don't think I would have fit through the opening, but we did have a rainwater tank.
Oh, sure. Well, like you do.
Yeah. Anyway. 10-year-old Kayle. So yeah, those were the first CDs that I had. I don't know what the first CD I bought was, because a lot of CDs were just given to me and like friends burning me like Avenged Sevenfold stuff and A Day to Remember and Rise Against stuff. I think maybe did I buy Endgame? I don't remember if I bought Endgame, which is Rise Against album. I know I know I bought another Rise Against album at some point. And that might be like the first, because by the time I was old enough to really like care about music and want to buy it, I either knew how to stream it or what was the other thing? Yeah, I knew how to stream it. That was the one thing. There wasn't another thing. It was just I knew how to stream it. Or the other thing was there was another thing. I lied. I'm weaving an intricate web. I'm like a
deception.
Yes, I'm a Decepticon.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so what was that?
Crickets. Sorry.
Oh.
Move forward.
Of course, we're the only two people here, OJ. You can't hear the laughter of all of our listeners out there in the world. We're the only two people in the room.
Sure. Hey, I'm laughing now.
I should kill that cricket, though. He's been hanging around for too long.
Sounds delicious. So what was the other way you had for...
iTunes.
iTunes.
That was the other
right.
way.
Yeah.
I would buy stuff on iTunes. I can't fucking talk tonight. Anyway.
Not at the same time.
Yeah. Crickets.
All right.
How does it feel?
It
Crickets.
feels amazing.
Anyway, so yeah, I would buy stuff on iTunes. And I had it for a while. My main way I listen to music is I had a CD player for a while that I would listen to. And then I got a hand-me-down iPod Nano. I think it was a Generation 1 iPod Nano.
Nice.
I think for a while I had an iPod Shuffle, which was kind of it was a step down because it had some of my mom's music on there, and I would have to cycle through to find my Linkin Park. And then finally I got an iPod Touch when I was like 16, and that was like, yes, it is all for me. I shall fill it with metal and punk and occasionally a video game soundtrack.
Deborah Gibson.
And Deborah Gibson.
No?
No.
Okay, no. Okay. Just
this podcast. Podcast, no. This iPod. It had pod in it.
The word pod was there. You were halfway in.
Yeah. This iPod shall contain only the most brutal songs and occasionally a little bit of the Wiggles. No, there was no Wiggles on my iPod. There was no Wiggles.
See, I got my first CD player in 1988.
Okay, so what was do you know what the first CD you bought was?
The first CD I bought was The New Order by Testament.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's a good first choice.
It was.
That's a good first choice.
It was a good album.
I'm very familiar with Tough One.
I got that one, and I got Metallica's and Justice for All.
Okay.
Man, what else did I have? There weren't a whole lot of CDs available to me. Like I said, I was living in a foreign country when that happened.
Do you know what the first cassette or first vinyl record you bought was?
Do you remember what the first wax cylinder you purchased?
What was the first Edison wax cylinder you bought?
My first cassette, yes, was ZZ Top's Afterburner.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I bought that in the 6th grade.
Cool. Were you into vinyl when you were younger? Did you have a record player?
No, I had a record player, but it was funny. The only records I had a copy of, oh man, what did I have on vinyl? I had Hellhammer.
Okay.
Hellhammer is the precursor to Celtic Frost.
It
bothers him.
It's Celtic.
Yeah, but I think Tom Fisher says Celtic.
He's wrong.
It's his band.
I don't care. I don't care.
So
he's wrong.
That was the Hellhammer. I had that, and I had a whole bunch of, because I used to get guitar magazines because I'm a guitar player. They would come with these just inserts of these little like 45.
Okay.
Little just a floppy record, like it's a page out of a magazine that you can stick on your record player and play. And I had.
What was the sound quality like?
Oh, it was absolute garbage. It was terrible, but it was there. It was.
Yeah, there it was.
It had famous guitar players playing. There was Cacophony was one of the bands.
Okay.
That I remember having on there. It was Walter Becker and Marty Friedman. Well, not Walter Becker.
Did we talk about Marty Friedman last week?
We might have talked about Marty Friedman. Marty Friedman and Jason Becker. Walter Becker is from.
I don't know.
Oh my God.
Don't get ahead of your mic.
Okay.
Leaning so far forward.
He's dead now. He was in Steely Dan.
Okay. Steely Dan.
Entirely different band.
Yeah.
I hear kids. Where do I hear children?
The window's open.
Oh, the window's open. Okay.
I wanted some airflow.
I'm glad that wasn't.
Yeah, because it was hot in here when I got home, so I wanted a little
The
bit of
ghosts
airflow.
of children haunt this apartment.
Yeah, actually, no. Their names are Timmy and Jimmy and Limmy.
Limmy?
Scottish comedian Limmy. And Rimmy. That's
Rimmy.
more of his nickname.
That's because of, the incident. Anyway, we're moving on.
He tore the rim off of a basketball hoop.
Yeah.
That's what they call it.
He was a very tall child.
He was 9 feet tall, which is part of why he died. He had severe gigantism.
His heart exploded one day. Yeah.
He died young. It was a tragedy. Sorry to anyone out there who has lost a loved one to gigantism. We should have put a trigger warning up. I'm sorry. And I broke the OJ.
Okay, all right. I'm fine. I'm good.
So, yeah, what the fuck were we talking about?
I don't even remember.
Like first records and that
Oh,
sort of
first
thing.
records, yeah. So,
Yeah.
I had that, and, those are my
So-
records. And I had a whole bunch of cassettes, like Filipino-made cassettes.
Yeah.
They were you buy them for 50 pesos a piece, which is $2.50.
I forgot that the Philippines does pesos.
They do pesos, yeah.
Yeah. One thing that came to mind that might be interesting to talk about is I think we talked about it a little bit last week. It was Iron Maiden for you, I believe you said, like albums that sort of opened the door,
Right?
And really got you into stuff. Because for me, like it wasn't like a boom one thing and then I'm into metal.
Right.
Like for a couple of years there, I wasn't all that interested in any band that had screamed vocals whatsoever. And then finally, I had gotten familiar with the first two Avenged Sevenfold albums, which were metalcore style. Later they would do more like thrash metal and just regular heavy metal. Their newest album is like a prog metal album. It's actually really good. But anyway, I had discovered those first two, and I was like, okay, I get it. Maybe I'm going to have to get into metalcore. So I typed metalcore into the internet. Into the internet. Just the generic search engine, the internet.
Right, the internet. Type it out. Open internet. Yeah.
Open computer, please open internet.
Typing words.
So there were like 4 bands that came up. It was like Killswitch Engage, All That Remains, Parkway Drive, and August Burns Red. And I think maybe Architects came up. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try out all of these. And so I tried out Killswitch Engage first and kind of slowly went into all the other ones. And that was like, then I was like, oh, yeah, no, I get it. I can do this. I can do this.
Yeah.
I know Kung Fu. I need guns, lots of guns. Those albums, like those 4 bands, are kind of what opened the door. And like my first, like, especially Alive or Just Breathing, which is Killswitch Engage's second album.
Sure.
That one was huge for me. That one was like, okay, this is
how you do it.
This is good metal with screamed vocals and stuff. And I think it was like that band that made me want to be a vocalist for a while until I hurt myself and couldn't do it anymore because I'm a silly head.
So you can't do it at all anymore.
Not without some significant pain and not insignificant recovery time.
So what is the workout for that? If you're going to be a metal vocalist,
like how do you prepare?
Yeah, what gym do you go to? I mean,
the gym of the neck. I don't know. The Iron Temple. There are warm-ups that you can do. I think everybody kind of has their own different one. I know there is a vocal coach that specifically teaches metal vocalists. Her name is Melissa Cross, and she's worked with a ton of people. She's worked with Randy Blythe from Lamb of God, and a whole bunch of other ones that I can't think of off the top of my head. But she's worked with a ton of different metal vocalists to keep them healthy, and she'll do checkups and voice lessons and whatnot. I know recently the lead singer for Killswitch Engage had some because he goes in for vocal checkups a lot because he's the former and current vocalist because he was on the first 2 albums. He left in the middle of a tour. And
bad form.
Yeah, it was bad form. He was in a bad place mentally at the time. And he had strained his voice pretty severely, and he had just gotten married, and he missed his wife, and was depressed and all that sort of stuff. So he left in the middle of a tour and was having a lot of vocal issues, and then slowly kind of built himself back. Oh, bumped my microphone. Slowly built himself back up into, doing metal bands and that sort of thing. And then the replacement vocalist that they had for like 4 album cycles, he ended up in the middle of a tour going into a diabetic coma.
Oh.
Yeah, Howard had a lot of health issues. And so Howard was eventually like, I can't do it anymore. And so
touring's hard.
Yeah, touring was really tough on Howard. And so eventually at that point, Jesse very quickly reconciled with his bandmates after he left. And so he had been doing a side project with their guitarist. And they were like, hey, Jesse, do you want to audition for Howard's part? I don't know if there was any subtext of like, you're gonna get it. Like this, there's no question you're gonna get it.
You know the material.
Yeah, you know, especially our older material, and you probably have a fine grasp of our new stuff.
Right. You know the band.
So he got back in, and he recently, a couple months ago, he had to drop out of a couple tour dates because he found out he had some vocal nodes that he needed to get worked on.
Ooh.
And so he had minor surgery, got them fixed, and then started doing therapy. And I'm pretty sure nodes is my problem. I know I need to go to an ENT and get that fixed because it's never been a problem at work. I mean, it's caused some discomfort after a long day, but I need to get it worked on at some point. If I ever have like a surgery that I need to have that is unrelated, I could be like, hey, also,
can you
during this time can you mess around in my throat?
Yeah, you know, after you take those polyps from my colon, can you go in and
can you go in the other direction from the other end and work on my throat?
Maybe could you wash the knife first?
Yeah, please wash the knife. They're just doing it with a knife, not a scalpel or like a steak knife even.
Well, I mean, are you insured?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay.
We work at the same place, OJ. We get health insurance.
I'm just making sure that you're not going to be going to some back alley.
Yeah, no, I have insurance. I'm not even on work insurance because I'm
still on your mom and dad's.
Yeah, I'm still eligible for my dad's, which might be better. I don't know. He works at a power plant, so they probably have good health insurance.
Hate to see you go to a back alley EMT.
Yeah,
ENT or EMT, either way.
Yeah, an EMT would be even worse because they're not even doctors.
Right.
So, yeah, I need to get that worked on at some point because I'd love to do vocals again someday. It's very cathartic. I love doing it, and I miss it a lot. I used to do vocal covers that I think can still be found on the YouTube channel this is going to premiere on.
Sure.
So I used to love doing it. I just did it wrong.
And injured yourself.
Yeah, and injured myself. And that happens. If you do anything wrong, you can hurt yourself. Except for math. You can't really hurt yourself if you do math wrong. Unless it's like an applied mathematics thing where you were trying to calculate your trajectory.
You were building a rocket, and you did the wrong math. Yeah. Now you're dead.
Probably other people, too.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you're talking about, like warm-ups and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the main thing for the warm-ups is just, like, doing some less intensive, like, singing and that sort of thing and building yourself up. And then it sort of depends for other people. Some of the things that you can do for screaming is like the opposite of what you would do to prepare for clean singing. Because for like clean singing, you want to have, very clear throat. You don't want a ton of mucus or anything like that.
Me.
Yeah. And, whereas I know Phil Bozeman from Whitechapel, one of the things that he recommends is he drinks warm Coke to get like the mucus in the syrup and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, people will do that sort of thing just to keep a coating to protect their vocal cords. So yeah, they'll do that. Drink lots of water. Push more with your diaphragm. Don't push it all out from your throat or anything like that. Just push with your diaphragm.
Spiced rum and cigarettes.
Yeah, spiced rum, cigarettes. Smoke 10 packs a day. And yeah, your vocals will be great. Actually, no, don't
do that. Yeah,
don't smoke at all. Is the best way to keep, if you're doing any kind of singing, is the best way to keep your singing good.
Right. Although some would argue with that. There are people like John Mellencamp. He would argue with it.
Well, and that's the
smoking made my voice.
That's well, and that's the weird thing about like smoking for that sort of thing is there are people that have smoked a pack a day for 70 years and experienced no ill health. Because
they're the exception, not the rule.
Yeah, they are absolutely the exception because every human body is different. Look at Ozzy Osbourne's cocaine tolerance. Caffeine is worse for him.
Yeah, he would gargle with warm Coke before a show as well.
Yeah. Ozzy Osbourne has weird biology.
He's a juggernaut.
He's an absolute juggernaut. Okay, so I think we're at about time. The good middle chunk there.
Yeah.
We talked about the album. So yeah, Forbidden, Twisted into Form from 1990. We both like it. I'd say I'd recommend it if you're interested in listening to a little bit older music than
older thrash metal.
Yeah, than
right.
we've talked about so far on the podcast. This is the oldest album that we've talked about so far out of the last 23 episodes. The second oldest one was Effigy of the Forgotten by Suffocation, which came out in 90. Oh, I had it up earlier and then I closed the tab. I think it came out in 92. I want to say
okay.
was Effigy of the Forgotten.
You already graduated high school. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd already. Yes, I had graduated high school.
No, that's the year I graduated.
Oh,
high school.
I thought you said that was the year that you graduated.
No.
High school.
The year I graduated high school.
Okay.
You graduated in
2014.
2014.
I'm sorry. I'm
No,
sorry for being so young.
He's such a baby.
You old man listening to your podcast.
Look at the baby.
I'm a millennial. I eat my avocados. I eat my avocados and ruin something else but because I don't want to buy it because I value different experiences. Because I don't care about buying a house because it's unrealistic anyway. I'm never going to be able to buy a house or retire, so I'm just going to enjoy what I can do.
That wasn't charged.
No, that wasn't. That's
Okay.
no emotion in that at all.
No. The funny accent was hiding some deep-seated issues. So yeah, thank you all very much for listening. I think that's it for now.
What are we doing next week?
Next week.
What's the next podcast? You haven't thought of it?
I was thinking about it earlier today. I hadn't necessarily committed to it, but I think there was an album that I was listening to earlier today that did come up, and there was other ones that I had thought about, but this is the one that I'm thinking about right now, so we'll commit to it.
Okay.
Spur of the moment. The album for next week is going to be Fit for an Autopsy's album, Hellbound.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's a deathcore album.
I don't know that I've heard this. Fit for an Autopsy.
Fit for an Autopsy. They're a deathcore band. I'd say my favorite deathcore band. Hellbound is probably my favorite deathcore album because it's not generic in the same way, or it doesn't necessarily like mess around or wank around because there are some deathcore bands that I showed you Rings of Saturn earlier today, which is a very wanky band. Like it's just all like super technical, hi-fi. Random bullshit.
Spacecore. Yeah.
And then there is, other bands that go super generic with it. I at points in my life, I really like Chelsea Grin. I still think their first album from Chelsea Grin is good. I like that one, but they don't they typically don't make very complex music. Although when Jason Richardson was in the band, they did because he's a ridiculously good guitarist. But at any rate, this one kind of goes in the middle and sort of falls more towards like a progressive deathcore without being too technical.
Cool.
So I think you'll like it. It's really heavy. It's really mean. It's very angry. Lots of misanthropy. There's one song on it called "Thank You, Bud Dwyer." If you know the story of Bud Dwyer.
The name sounds familiar. Why does it sound familiar?
We'll talk about it next week.
Okay.
We'll talk about it next week. So next week's album. Hellbound by Fit for an Autopsy. Tune in for that. I guess thank you all very much for listening to the Bronze Medalist Podcast. I'm Kayle Borner.
I'm OJ Bennett. Congratulations.